This episode is sponsored by Zenro Clothing Co. Pick up your tees and or accessories at zenroclothingco.com and be sure to use offer code Socrates at checkout for 20% off select items. Also, if you're not into spending the money, just check out the Zenrail radio playlist. zenrailclothingco.com, music for your everyday. This episode also sponsored by The Portian Bakery. If you're located in the Portian area of Scarborough, Toronto, be sure to check out The Portian Bakery, say what's up to Arville, and pick up a donut or two. Baked daily, crafted with love. This episode also sponsored by Podbean. Podbean is the podcasting platform of choice. It's the one that me and Vish use, and is great, you know, if you're looking to start that DIY podcast yourself. Definitely check out Podbean. Use the link podbean.com/SocraticGamers and gain 1 month of unlimited podcasting for free. Test it out, build that content. Anyone can podcast, right, Vish?
Yep.
Start a podcast and get your ideas out there. All right, enjoy the episode. All right, so I think maybe the most obvious thing that we should talk about that's pretty big that happened this week is Elon Musk buying Twitter. That was this week, right? Last week was the speculation.
Yeah, I think
it
started. Yeah, the Monday, the announcement of him buying. Yeah.
Yeah, right, and that fully went through.
Either parties can still back out.
Oh, okay, but it looks like
but it's
it does
going
look
through.
like it's going through.
Technicality right now.
Yeah, whatever happened with the poison pill?
So I don't know. Probably more of the story will come out. Like maybe that's like some of the. I don't know where the story came from. If it came from inside Twitter board or not, but like if it was maybe some individuals that didn't want it, but then they may have voted it in the board if they want to buy it,
right,
want to do a buyout or not. So because it was just probably was like a reaction to hearing, oh, he's going to buy us out. So there's probably like it was a reaction to it, but they're not necessarily thought about.
Right. It's like wait to the next day to make a sober second thought.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. But the poison pill was like the whole idea of diluting the stocks to make it like dilute his shares because he had like the highest percentage at the time, and then they're trying to dilute his power.
Yeah, I think it was like it may have been, I don't know, this idea of poison pill came from another type of one that was trying to take over like before.
So somebody else tried to take over Twitter?
Not Twitter, like a different kind of company.
Oh,
so that's where this this idea came from.
Right.
So.
It's interesting. I was watching that We're All Gonna Die show on Crave with my sister. And then the episode they were talking about was asteroids hitting Earth. And I was like, yeah, it's like the idea of the Great Filter, which Elon Musk is trying to avoid. And then she was like, how did he even make his money? Right. And I was like, oh, not many people know that he started. He didn't start PayPal. He joined PayPal, made it really big, sold it. Then he started this company of SpaceX, all based around the idea of him, like everything he does. So like, you know, when people are like, oh, he's so rich, like, what are you doing for humanity? And then if you actually look at it, it's like he's trying to do as much as he can realistically for humanity, which is like SpaceX, let's off-world our species, you know, because then if you have, it's sort of like data, right? If you have all of your data on your computer and you lose your computer, you're kind of done, right? But if you can back up your data on multiple hard drives, then you have it stored across different spaces. And then, you know, if one breaks down, the other one's okay. And that's basically what he's doing with humanity, right? Like, space colony on Moon, space colony on Mars. Then if the Earth gets destroyed, well, at least we have two other spots where humanity is somehow
can
out
flourish.
there. Yeah. You can flourish, right? Yeah. And then in relation to Tesla, you know, because my sister was like, oh, he has EVs going, right? But now all these other companies are doing it. I'm like, yeah, why do you think they're doing it? Because he proved that it's viable, you know? But indirectly, it's like you're going electric. So you just make a really cool price. He's using like economics to solve the world's problems, which is the only way to do it, you know, instead of like championing for climate, you know, fixing the climate. Yeah. You know, what is your solution? Why would anyone want to buy into the solution? But if you create a really great product, and it happens to be electric, then you're just hurting people in the correct direction without having to like tell them,
Yeah.
And then from there, it's like, why'd you buy Twitter? Because that's the big question. It's like, well, why do you buy Twitter? And then she's like, oh, he's gonna buy Coca-Cola because all those memes that are coming up. But it's like, that's not real.
No, yeah,
it's not really.
I know. Yeah, those are memes. Yeah, they're just.
But she was like, why you buy Twitter? And I was like, well, it's the last space for free speech that he believes, right? So the idea of free speech being, whoever you don't like has the right to bash you or like say things that you don't agree with, But I totally agree with it as well, this idea of free speech, because a lot of people are like, oh no, now Twitter is going to become a hate space. But it's like, who is making the rules? And I think we don't think about that whenever we talk about, justice.
If what he's doing is going to happen, what he wants is the same rules apply for Twitter speech that apply under the law.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
He's just equating the two.
Yeah, for sure. And which is, you have the freedom to say whatever it is you want to say, as long as it's not like defamatory. Like there are laws around it.
Yeah, there's already laws around.
Which we see with the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp thing going on. It's like that. That's why he's suing her, right? For defamation of character. So there are laws supporting those laws, and he's just trying to, protect the reality of what the true essence of free speech is, which I find a lot of people don't actually understand. Like they're all like, one thing that people don't really get is like, if you create a policy around something, so it's like, oh, we don't want hate speech. Okay, so who defines hate speech?
Yeah.
And then whoever's rules apply, they become the, de facto god of the, what I'm saying? Like the overlord. So it's like, one day if you're on, like, if let's say it's liberal, but you're the opposite, conservative or Republican, and you're like, oh, well, we don't agree with this, but it's like, yeah, but whoever's in charge is the one setting the rules for the platform. So it's not even. It's like, it's one side it's more leaning, right? Like more left leaning than it is right leaning, but that's not fair,
right?
Because there are two sides to it.
Yeah, that's what under the legal law of free speech.
Exactly. Let's follow the actual legal law. But again, everybody's thinking from a point of like what is hate speech? If I tweet out like, I don't like you, it's like, oh, that's hate speech. It's like, no, I just, you know what I mean? It's like,
well, what is hate speech is also probably described in the law. What?
Yeah, well, that's why you have the laws of like no defamation of character, like libel and slander. You can't blatantly lie about someone's character. And then slander is like attacking them without like evidence to attack them.
Right.
Yeah. I'm all for this idea of although I don't really use it, so
I'm a big fan of Twitter, so
I've
been for a long time. So,
but I do see the reason why I think he wanted to step in is because a lot of people are being blocked on these platforms, and they were also being shadow banned, like Eddie Griffin. I think I brought that up last week, but like Eddie Griffin, I was searching him, I'm like, oh, he doesn't have Instagram, and then I Googled it, and I'm like, oh, you have to type out his full name for him to show up, which is showing you that he's shadow banned. Like you're hiding your content. But then the question is, who's choosing who gets shadow banned? And it's like, I don't know how real this is, but I saw it as like in my feed. There's somebody who's in charge of censorship for Twitter, and they're getting paid like $1 million a year. So they're saying like in the comments, like, oh, this person can get fired. Like Elon Musk was looking at the actual structure of the organization. He's like, why is this person getting paid so much money to choose who to block?
Yeah. I don't know the exact designation of that person, but
like their position and all that, like what they actually have to like oversee. Yeah, but it is weird though that. Okay, so the concept is like, there's so much content being put out there, you can't actually have individuals.
You can't have
personally going around looking at every case, right?
That wouldn't be the case. It would normally be algorithm to probably find them, but then to fine tune it would be a person.
Right, totally, yeah. So
fine tune, I mean, like actually say yes or no.
Right.
for questionable ones.
Right. Totally. So it's like, so who gives that person that power?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Is that like a subjective thing? They're just like,
And then
I
it
don't like
becomes,
this.
it can be subjective. Yeah.
Right. And then that's not in accordance with. But see, the thing
That's what he's
is,
saying is that it should be followed by the law, right? Like for like, I have mentioned this before where the Nazi speech,
yeah.
but was allowed. Even the guy that was head of that kind of thing was a Jewish person. It's like, no, but under the law they can.
Yeah, exactly. Why would I censor you? Like the best cure to hate speech is more speech, because then other people could see like, oh, this is kind of messed up. Like I don't want to. Like if you
whatever's wrong speech, the right speech. That's the.
Yeah, but who defines like what is right speech? You know, what is wrong speech?
Or misinformation speech too.
But so all these little things like hate speech, right speech, misinformation, it's like who really gets to decide, you know, what it is. These categories fall under.
Well, under the law you can say all these things, right? So that's just
totally, yeah. But going back to if you listen to our older podcast, we were like, well, it's a private platform, do whatever you want, right? So I think it's a good thing that Elon Musk is doing this, because whoever's heading the organization gets to choose the direction of the organization, right? So if they were doing all these shadow ban things, it's like, yeah, that's totally within your right as a company.
Yeah.
Because we're buying into the platform. We don't have to use it, right?
Yeah.
And it's not a utility, right? It's not like gas or, you know, so it can't be governed by the government, right? But then if the person in charge is all for what real free speech is, which Elon Musk is, then you're heading back in the right direction. And even Jack Dorsey, the guy who invented Twitter, he was like, oh, Elon Musk is going to save this platform, because it's like,
he's got a Elon has his backing too, like
right.
From
so it's like
Jack Dorsey. So
if even the founder of Twitter is saying like, oh, this is the right move, you know. Which I find so weird. It's like we look at these people with lots of money to like solve our problems, and I mean, like, no, totally, you should solve the problem. Like you should help if you can help, but like what constitutes helping? And that's why I think Elon Musk doing the right
too,
thing,
right? I mean, it's subjective of how you want to help. So he is helping. If you look at it,
he is helping, but people don't see it like that because they're looking at the superficial aspect of it.
Yeah,
you know, because they don't see the bigger picture, which is you're using commerce to fix the problem.
Exactly. I think space exploration is a very important thing.
Yeah,
for the future of humanity.
But even from the very basic level of like data management, right? Like I was saying, if you save it across multiple hard drives, that logically makes sense. So why wouldn't you be in favor of like off-worlding our species?
Yeah, right.
Because if something does hit our planet, like in that documentary show, We're All Gonna Die, my sister's like, well, there's so many ways. And I was like, as the episode was happening, because we both delve really deep into like asteroids and like super volcanoes, all that stuff, right? So I was like explaining it to her, and she's like, what do you mean? And then they would say the exact same thing I said on the show, and then she's like, dude, you're way too into this. I'm like, yeah, if you know all the ways we could die, of course it's going to make sense to support Elon Musk. Like, she didn't even know what the Great Filter was. Do you know what the Great Filter is? Like the filtering out of all civilizations?
Like maybe not in the terminology.
Okay, so basically, this is Elon Musk's biggest fear, and what a lot of space people are afraid of is like, so there's the Fermi Paradox, which is, it was named after the guy Fermi who came up with this. If the universe is so large, how come we can't see intelligent life?
Other intelligent life,
right? Yeah. And then another theorist came along, and he's like, oh, it's because of the Great Filter. And basically what it is if your species can't off-world, it eventually filters out that species. The dinosaurs, they couldn't off-world, they died.
Right.
And apparently, if you watch the documentary, the show on Crave, it's like 99.9% of species have all been extinct off of Earth.
Yeah.
So it's like,
on Earth, yes.
Okay, if you know these numbers, you're gonna want to support SpaceX. You're like, well, humanity can easily be wiped out.
Yeah.
From like a super volcano, which like Yellowstone is like the big one where if it explodes, it'll kill off all of our
Yeah.
planet. You know what I mean? Or an asteroid that hits us, you know,
Yeah.
game over. Climate change, game over. Nuclear war, game over. All these great filters that could just kill us off.
Yeah.
You know? But like if we have nuclear war on Earth, but then the moon is there, they're like, oh, look, the crazy people on Earth are going off.
Right.
They're not affected by it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's why we need to off-world too.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. You know what's really trippy too? People don't really think about this too in terms of like light years. So when you're looking at stars, you're actually looking at the past.
Yeah.
Right? Because it takes X amount of light years for that light to reach us.
So technically you're looking at the past.
Yeah, right. So if that is the past, we don't know if those stars have like crazy intelligent life as well. We think we're alone in the universe, but like that's only because that's the time it takes for the stars to get to us. You know what I mean? And how many billions of years has the Earth been around before life sprung up on it? You know what I'm saying? So it's like maybe there is like intelligent life
and also
everywhere.
I think if in numbers game, I feel like there should be.
Yeah, totally.
Out there.
But why haven't we seen it is the question.
But also, when we look, like when the scientists are looking up into space, they're looking for planets that look like us. But there could be other planets
that harbor life.
That have life
ways.
that doesn't have to have our parameters.
Right. So this is what one of the guys was saying in that show, and I was like, that's pretty interesting. You could have intelligent life underneath the surface, like just like dolphins, right? On the surface, if they're in the water, you wouldn't see any life. But then if you go in the water, you're like, all this like, all these fish are here, right? So it could be like that for other planets, but we don't have the technology to like delve that deep into the planet.
Yeah.
Well, one thing, I was listening to this podcast with Lex Friedman, and I can't remember who like the scientist is, but what he was saying is what her study is looking at pollution from planets. So the quickest way to know if there's life on there is if they have pollution, because we give off pollution. So if you create pollution, you're creating some sort of civilization, right? You never think about that, but everyone's looking at like, oh, what looks like it has life on it. It's like, no, look for pollution, you know, which makes total sense because, you know, if they're anything like us, they would be polluting somehow. I don't know. But yeah, and another thing is like this whole alien thing, like, are we being visited by planets? And then they're saying it's most likely robots, if it is anything, because we do that, right? We send out like probes.
Yeah.
Like we landed on Mars recently, right, with a rover.
Yeah.
So like, because like biological material will decay within the 2 million years or whatever.
Yeah.
But those things that are in space won't decay because there's no atmosphere to decay it. So it'll just stay in its pristine condition.
Right.
Trippy, man. Like we there's so much we don't know about our own Earth, but there's also so much we don't know about space.
Yes.
You know?
That's why we have two fields of sciences, on
Earth, like biology and
we've got biology for Earth stuff. We got space. Scientists for space stuff. So it's like we have both fields, and we're still learning things from on Earth as well as learning things about space too.
Apparently, we haven't even explored all of the oceans as well.
No. Yeah, there's there's areas that are just too deep for us to go to.
Yeah. So like, what if there is like some crazy Atlantean civilization in there we just don't know about? And I was saying that to my sister, and she's like, "Oh, that's so ridiculous." But she also doesn't know that we haven't explored all of our oceans. So it's like that is actually viable. You know, all these alien sightings. Like, remember France brought that idea up? He's like, maybe it's just like Wakanda or something, or like water people. That actually could be a thing because we haven't explored every single nook and cranny of our own Earth. Yeah. Especially underwater, like because if you know that life is going to be destroyed here, wouldn't you want to go underwater because it's protecting you? You won't be caught by fire. You won't be. There's still like oxygen because you can get the oxygen bubbles. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, I get what you're saying. Yeah,
I feel like that's more viable than extraterrestrial beings that are. I don't know. What do you think? You think that alien life from a different planet coming to us is more viable than water people?
I think it's more understanding. I think it's more like it's something from Earth.
Exactly. Yeah, because like the light years away is like, how could you possibly make it to us?
Yeah.
Unless you were robots. But then who's controlling the robot? You know.
Yeah.
But well, simultaneously, this is more like anthropologically speaking, because we're anthropomorphizing it because it's like this is what we would do.
Yeah.
We don't know how their concept works, right? Like,
yeah, we can only relate to things that we do, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like we, unless we think differently, then it's not gonna like.
Yes.
It's hard to.
Yeah.
We can only compare it to ourselves.
Yeah, totally. Do you think there's like wormhole discussions, right? Like not even. Like how would you even do that? You know, like maybe they do have wormholes, but like the concept of bending space and time, that that seems so ridiculous to me too. Like how are you supposed to do that?
Yeah, I understand that, and that's just like it's just going into this whole other idea of like when he's saying about off-worlding, it's also about when he says also increasing our consciousness, it's also like understanding.
That's what increasing our consciousness means.
Yeah, it means like
conscious understanding. It sounds so esoteric, but it's not.
It's true. Yeah, it's like no, like we're gonna learn more things about the space when we're there and staying there.
Yeah,
like that's gonna.
But that's so funny. It's like when he said that, I cut that up because I was like, oh, that's really interesting that he would phrase it like that. We need to expand the scope and scale of consciousness. But like, what is consciousness? Is just like our awareness of what is happening around us. So you should expand that. Like the more you know, the more you can like.
Yeah. So like we're only experiencing things from Earth, right? Like if we're living on Mars, maybe we're going to find some other kind of experiments that.
Yeah.
Didn't work here, but works there, or something like that.
Or like different physics, right?
Different physics.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
True.
So it's like that's what I mean by like the wormhole thing is now a weirdly. I mean, the word itself or our understanding of it seems like unbelievable thing. But like
because we're using Earth physics.
Yeah.
Okay,
so maybe that's the whole point of increasing the consciousness to maybe we can figure out something else that relates to that,
or some sort of like raw material that's elsewhere. You know.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if they started doing that? Like we started mining asteroids for raw materials to bring back here. Like if you found out like batteries, right? We could make a more efficient battery if we use like stardust material or something, you know.
Yeah.
We start building that kind of economy, like a space economy. That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
You know, one thing that seems more realistic to me as well, apart from like bending space and time, is like different dimensions, but not from the sense of like alternate like I don't mean like that. I mean like how a bee can see things that we cannot see. So it's like maybe there's stuff going on around us at all times that we just don't even realize is happening because we don't have the input sensors for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we can't visually see radio waves, but bees can. Or a good example is like dogs see in black and white. Right? So like they can't comprehend color because their brains can't. You know? So like what are the things that we cannot perceive simply because we don't have the input sensors for it or the brain capacity for it. You know?
Yeah.
I heard this once. It's like if you're explaining, physics to a dog, its brain just cannot handle that level of comprehension. So it seems like gibberish to you.
Yeah. True.
Right? You know what I'm saying? But like imagine if like a higher being from a different dimension, not dimension, but like within if they can tap into if they can somehow connect to our sensory inputs and then we could start seeing them, it would sound like magic, whatever they're saying, like but it's like no, but they have different input sensors than us. I can see that being aliens as well. Like it's not really aliens from a different planet, but it's more like they're on Earth already. We just can't see them or interact with them because we don't have the capacity to
do so. Yeah.
Does that make sense as well?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, but with technology, you can start to achieve these things. So we don't know where we're going to head. So like I saw this video of this guy who was colorblind, and then they gave him colorblind glasses for his like 18th birthday, and he started crying. I saved the video because it was so like emotional. He starts shaking and he starts crying because he saw color for the first time. And he's like, what is this? You know? So imagine, and that's technology, right? We're adding something on to, you know what I mean? To like build more input sensors for us. So with things like Neuralink, what can we possibly do? Oh, that's another thing that Elon Musk is doing. Neuralink, right? People think, oh, you're just gonna like implant this chip into my brain and like I'm gonna become a robot. But it's like, no, he's starting with like paraplegics, right? Or like people who are colorblind. Maybe you could see more colors. Yeah. I really wonder what kind of human are we gonna be going forward, right? Like with like cell phones being like instantaneous access to knowledge, right? Like if you don't know something, or like I was describing you the fish sandwich, right? You're like, oh, which one? And you just pulled it up.
You know, right.
The comfort and convenience of technology has brought us so far, and we would have never thought of that. Like, you know, like
there's a lot of. I mean, it changed a lot of our mannerisms too, right?
Yeah.
Now I don't remember what we were like without the phones, because we can easily.
But imagine us as kids, right? And then you're like, hey, in the future, you're going to be able to just like, there's this device that will send you food directly to where you are. You're like, what? How's that going to work? Yeah. Or like, oh, you want to see what the trippiest one is, the IKEA furniture, right? You want to see what that cabinet's going to look like in your house. They have augmented reality. Remember when you first showed me that? I was like, what?
Yeah. So like, when we were kids, if you explain that, that's just too alien for us.
Right. You're going to be able to see the device in your home before it's even in your home. Yeah. You're like, what are you talking about? But if you fill in the gaps, it's like augmented reality, cell phones, using the app. If you knew what those things were, you'd be like, that makes sense. Yeah. It's logical only because we understand the steps to get there.
But every step was a gradual step. Like, I don't know how, if you jump from no phone to this kind of phone already, how would we react? Right?
Freak out.
As I'm saying, like, everything was like small dial up phone kind of thing. And it was all incremental steps to get to this point. But that's just how we normally do things, right? Which is like, okay, what was the issues with this old device? What can we fix with the new one? Right. And then that as a continuation of this evolution of the phone to what we have right now. And then what's going to happen in the next 10 years?
Right. So maybe things are possible. We just don't know how to do it. Like time travel, probably possible. We just don't know the incremental steps. Space travel, like warp speed.
I don't think that's what I'm saying. Nothing. You can't just jump to some technology without an actual gradual uptake to that. Right. Because you don't know what is needed necessarily.
Right. It's sort of like the Wright brothers, right? When they first started flying, it was like they invented the plane, right? And now, but from the plane came jets. From jets came rockets. From rockets came space travel. But if you jump too quickly,
and they're all like smaller size planes too, right?
Yeah.
And one or two people, and then slowly you get
bigger.
More of that technology is understood. We're making them bigger, making them more commercial now. Yeah. And now we can take people around the world.
I think I saw this in a movie. I don't know if it was I think it's Back to the Future. They had the power. The reason why they can go back to the future is they use like plutonium as the energy source. They have like mini nuclear reactors in their devices. I mean, that seems somewhat possible.
Well, I mean, I don't understand the technology, right? So I don't know what's possible, impossible in that. Like what's plutonium? What is that?
No, and then you like it becomes steam, right?
No, but like how does that affect time?
No, I don't mean time. No. Right, you're right. No, those are two different thoughts.
Okay.
I was thinking about the battery pack, not the time travel.
Oh, okay.
That's too far, too many steps, right? But I'm just thinking about batteries because that's the big issue right now, right?
Yeah, that big. Okay,
yeah. Good catch there. Because if you were listening to it, you'd be like, "How does that relate to time?" You're right. No, I wasn't thinking about time. I was thinking about the battery issue.
Okay.
That we're having now, like the reason why we can't do certain things, is because of a lack of energy storage and transmission, right? Like you can't have, I don't know, like what's a good example for, like, why do you need to recharge things? You know, there could be a time in the future where you don't need to recharge things. And then what does that mean for other things, right? It's like a train. You could have a 24/7 train that travels around the earth, and then that will change our habits of travel. You know what I mean? Like, oh, just hop on this in 72 hours of nonstop travel, you'll make it to your destination or whatever, right? But if you look at it where we are now, it's like, well, we need to stop to refuel. Like when I used to go to Ottawa, we'd stop, switch the cars. I don't think they would refuel, but there's a refuel process, right?
Yeah.
But like if you had some sort of energy battery utilizing, the reason why I said plutonium is because it's like it just keeps burning away, right? Until it just runs out. So if you had like a micro plutonium thing that was powering the train, and then that would constantly go, you know, that would totally transform the way we travel around Earth.
I think the next, I think the big thing for the next thing would be like battery technology. I feel like
exactly.
That's because everything's using lithium now, right?
So that's where I was headed. Like, because that's the big issue right now. Everyone's like, oh, lithium ion batteries don't last as long as we would like.
Right. So
like,
what would be the next battery technology? But that's also, are we looking at also making it thinner and then making
exactly.
Like there's all these newer things we're trying to figure that would fit with what we have today, but not be too different.
Yes.
But also last longer.
So could you imagine if they figure out like these battery technologies, like let's use the Back to the Future example of like the plutonium, and then it just never dies out. It's like we would have a never-ending sleeping city. You know, like you have to turn off, they're like, oh, turn off the lights because of pollution or your energy bill. But what if your energy bill was zero because you didn't, well, okay, you can never have an energy bill that's zero because you're cutting into the cost, you're cutting into the profits of someone else. Because who are we paying for the energy bill?
It depends. If you can find a way to zero energy, then it's also a way to save money.
No, for sure.
If it's like provinces running.
For the consumer, it's great. But I always think like when you start messing with other people's money, you're going to get pushback. Like
there's always going to be pushback in that sense, but it's also like who's run, depends on how your energy system is being run, right? If it's government run, there's always the budget stuff that comes around, so they're trying to save money in here and raise money somewhere else. So it's like if there's ways for newer technologies to save money, that's generally what they try to do.
But I don't know if that's true. Okay, so I get what you're saying. Logically, I totally get what you're saying. Like, yeah, they're trying to save money. But so I heard this with the housing crisis, right? In the homeless crisis in America. If you solve that problem, the CEO is going to have no job, right? So every solution destroys an industry.
Yeah, it can't. So for instance, like this whole, this idea of how we got all the money back from our driver's license plate thing.
But that's not big. That's not a big industry.
It's not that it's a big. It is a big thing, right? It affects a lot of people. That
no, it does.
Right now, you're just registering everything just online. You don't have to go in anymore. They can reduce the amount of
people that are working there. For sure.
Yeah.
But that's like
that's what I mean by like something industry. That's maybe government run.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. But things that are not government run, which is energy, that's not government run. I mean, like to a degree it is, but like gasoline that we use is not government run. They have their hands in it, but it's not like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, I feel like people don't want to shift out of their way of making money because that's how they're making money.
No, yeah, that's what's generally going to be a slow, gradual change. It's not like that would happen drastically.
Right. Which is funny because it's like when you say slow, gradual change, it's goes back to Elon being like, death is a necessary part of life, because if we didn't have death, you'd have all these people who are thinking in their old school ways that never died out.
Exactly.
You need the old people to leave so you can come in and be like, we're going to change things up.
Yes. Yeah.
So like
that's a natural filter.
That's why it's gradual, because you have to wait for them to die.
But that's another filter, right? That's a way to.
Yeah, true. That's like
a natural filter.
It's like what do you call that? Darwinian kind of like natural selection, the best.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Yeah, or just evolution in general. Like the old dies out for the new to
evolve.
Like
if we would live forever, we would probably be like, I don't think we'd be here.
We'd have kings. Yeah, no. We'd still have things running. You'd have an even bigger discrepancy between rich and poor. Because the people that are rich, if they live forever, they would just continue to make money off of their thing. Well, I read this really interesting book about, it's like capitalism and imperialism, but it's a really old book, like written in the 1900s. So at the time of the book was written, Britain was in power. America wasn't in power yet.
Yeah.
But one of the principles that they said is capitalism has essentially split the world into like rich and poor, like producers and consumers. Like you think about India and China. They're primarily in our heads production facilities. They're not like major market trading posts, right? That's what USA is, Canada to some degree. Do you get what I'm trying to say? It's like we look at those countries like, oh, they're factories made in China, made in India.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, in some ways, yeah.
Right? There's like the rulers and then the ruled, and that was all because of just because of how things played out. Right? Britain was the one that started going around and like colonizing these places, and like, oh, you're gonna create something, send it back to me, and we're gonna sell it in my own market. You know what I mean? And like, I feel like if people didn't die, we'd have an even more disproportionate leaning in that direction.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You even like, so the person that made that is probably a genius. Like, oh, I figured out how to create Britain the best economy in the world. And because they died, the intelligence was like lessened a little bit because it wasn't their idea. But imagine if they live forever, they're just going to keep monopolizing. That was the thing about the book, is like monopolies. There's no such thing as free market anymore. It's all monopolies.
Oh yeah, I was thinking that too. It's like if people did live forever, then the knowledge would still be the same, but like not the same. Sorry, like the old way of thinking, right?
Yeah.
Where
exactly.
What also happens if some people you lose or die out, like then you can.
There's a dip enough for you to change.
Yeah. There's like you lose something, but you may change the way you do it.
Right.
For the next time.
For good or bad.
For good or bad.
Who knows?
Whichever way it's going to go,
Yeah, if there was no death, we just have like crazy stagnation. And like, would people even want to have children then? Because it's like you would actually overpopulate the earth.
Yeah.
But Elon Musk was saying something really interesting too. You know, people are like, oh, there's going to be an overpopulation of people.
He was saying that?
No, not him. He was saying the opposite.
Yeah, he's saying the opposite. Yeah.
There's an underpopulation.
Yes.
No, but I remember going to these like, when I was in university, we were going to these like special talks about overpopulation.
Yeah, I
like,
remember
remember
those.
that, right?
Yeah, I remember
and like,
at the time,
we're going to hit like 10 billion people, whatever. But he's like, just do the mathematics. Like people are lessening their child like production.
Yes. Yeah.
So we're not going to have like for a family of two, you get one. So you lost one.
Yeah, like in Japan, they're declining population.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very, very fastly.
But and then he was saying, although I disagree with what he's saying with this one, he's like, we need to ramp up our children population.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like there's no incentive to do that because it costs so much money.
Yeah. So
kids is like,
he's right in the general sense. He's right, but to make that happen,
to solve it,
to if you want more people to have more kids, then you have to make
living
incentives to be much more cheaper, because it just doesn't make sense when like over here, like the houses are way too expensive.
Dude, yeah.
How are you going to really raise a family, right? Like it's not that's the problem. If you want your population to increase, then you need to make living expenses cheaper.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's right in the general concept, but
we're not going to do that because that's an idealistic
it's not going to
point of view.
happen in a society that's has too much expenses.
Yeah, totally. And the way I look at, I kind of see it like, well, I mean, they do say it like this, but I also see it like this. It's like slavery, like financial slavery, because once you are indebted to something, you owe that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it almost seems like because of the way things are right now, having a child is extreme enslavement. Because like, how much are you going to pay for the kids? Unless you make them pay for everything themselves, whatever. But like, people are like, oh, I'm going to put money aside so that I can pay for their college,
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, that's more money I'm like tapped into. So that's one kid, but then you need 8 kids to fix the reduction of population.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I mean by
enslaved.
That's by reducing expenses.
So
allow that to happen.
So it is nice to think that you should have lots of kids to increase the population of the human species, but at the same time, it's like it's just not enticing at all.
If you want to do that, then you have to solve this other problem.
Yeah, totally.
If you want that to happen,
which I'm pretty sad about, like in terms of the UBI and like all that, it's like we really could have made something different, Yeah. I was listening to more.
Well, there's like a new thing spreading around, but like a 4-day work week, right? Isn't that the thing that's...
Yeah, but I don't know.
They're trying to spread that.
But then with 4-day work weeks, it's like, are you going to reduce the pay? Are you going to, like, what are you going to do to compensate the 4-day work week?
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know the full aspect of it, but they feel like, or what they see is that there's more production done, like
productivity.
There's more productivity, yeah,
with a 4-day work week.
With a 4-day work week.
So that's the thing. It's like, if you give us more time, we're going to learn how to I've seen so many memes about this. Mm-hmm. Like, if you give me 5 days to complete a project, I'm going to stretch that out to make sure it's 5 days. But if you make it 4 days, I'm going to stretch that out to only 4 days. So of course the productivity is going to go up because you need to get this done.
Yeah.
And I find that, I mean, like now with COVID, I haven't been into an office for like over 2 years, but I remember it was like, there's a lot of wasted time. Mm-hmm. Not for me, because like I come from the freelance world, so I was like, let me just get this done.
Yeah.
But like, there's a lot of like office chatter, and like, people love that though. You need to like socialize, but at the same time, it's like, if you were given the option, it's like either you have more time to socialize, or we cut down your time to socialize, but you get a weekend. Mm-hmm. You get a 4-day work week. Mm-hmm. Well, I think people would choose the latter.
Yeah.
They're like, what I'm saying? Like, you would reduce your wasted time if you were afforded extra free time. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if that's actually going to pull through. I saw some companies doing it, but it's not like,
yeah, I mean, these things take time. Like, there was no idea of weekends before.
That's true too. Yeah. Man, I really wonder, like, in terms of also digital nomads, now that internet has become so good, and like Zoom, Tara's doing the school stuff, like presentations, but they were all doing it through Zoom. So when her business partner realized that she can just do all online, she's going to be in Peru for the next like 2 months or something, doing all of her work from Peru. Because it's the same time zone.
Right. Where did I?
See what I mean? It's like,
I just saw like a title of the article, or for Airbnb, you can work from anywhere.
Yeah, it's amazing. That's the world we're...
Yeah.
I really feel that's the world we're transitioning to, and if that does happen, then you could unintentionally solve climate change as well.
And they could also reduce house prices too, if that happens.
Oh, because there's going to be like less demand
to be in the city.
Yeah. Right. So
I feel people could be spread out. Yeah.
Could be a cool world. All right. If I was a conspiracy theorist, I would think that they're increasing gas prices to fix climate change as well. For real though, it's like
Well,
you're kind of forced to an EV.
Kind of, in a way, because they have a carbon tax over here.
So really? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I believe so. Yeah.
Guess how much it went from? It increased even more. So guess how much a full tank of gas costs for a Toyota now?
$100. I don't know.
Oh, that's very close. It went from 40 bucks for a full tank that we were paying to, I think yesterday it was like $79.
Oh, all doubled.
It's basically doubled. I was like, what is going on? It's crazy. so that's what I mean. It's like you're dividing the rich and the poor.
Mm-hmm.
You're forcing us to like take TTC now because that's obviously cheaper,
Mm-hmm.
which indirectly solves climate change. Like, is that what they're doing? You know what I mean? Like you can go down that conspiracy rabbit hole.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, yeah. Well, the whole idea, I think, the premise of carbon tax is to cause that change to go buy electric or go use more transit.
But in doing that, you're indebting the people that already
it
bought
affects
the car.
It affects the poor.
That's what I mean. They're going to have a
general.
crazy division between rich and poor now. Only the rich people can drive cars. You're going to see that in the future. You know what I mean? Actually, that's how it was in Hong Kong. When I was there, I was only seeing.
Or either they have to, maybe with the money with the carbon tax, they can, let's get some better transit systems or more transit lines to kind of fix the issues, because we have like one of the worst ones.
Transit systems?
Yeah.
But it's not even
it's relatively okay, but we also live right close to it. So, but it's like
the people that are
like if you go to
like
areas. Paris, you go to London, the amount of ways you can travel are, you can choose any kind of route kind of thing, right? And always is running. So it's like you have to compensate it some other way too, right?
Right, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, like you have to alleviate this issue for us by extending it to make it more accessible instead of having to force us to use cars, makes more poor.
Yeah.
But I think the fundamental issue with public transit, at least for me, it's not about time. It's about cleanliness and safety.
Yeah, so like all those, I feel like all those sort of things should be there. I think we should take a lesson from what Japan does, or like.
Oh, what? What does it do?
No, like the cleanliness of it, like keeping things
totally
in order.
I agree with you, but I think that's a cultural thing. Again, remember like a couple of podcasts ago, or maybe it was the last podcast, we were talking about like if you stuff a bunch of people with different cultures.
Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah. No, I know, but like it's all part of the solution. Like it's not just like one thing of just
right. Yeah.
It's like do you want more people to use transit, then all these things kind of involve in it, right?
Yeah, totally. I agree with you, and that's what makes being a politician so hard. Because think about it,
it's like for instance, like there's two ways that transit's running. Like so we hear there's no bus path, right? Or there's no like a route directly for the bus. It has to go on the normal road. Okay. Right. Yeah. So it's going to be affected by traffic too.
Yes. Yeah.
And then in Richmond Hill area, they've got bus lanes, and so it's more faster to take the bus than to take a car.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So like that's making it more like accessible.
And then you kind of want to take transit. Yeah. But also look at the demographics of Richmond Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Primarily Asian, rich people. So it's like you're culturally.
But it's also like it's because it's more of a newer thing, right? It's more of a newer development, so they were able to plan out.
Oh, right. Better. As opposed to like downtown Toronto, which is like, could you imagine if
because there was no idea of like subways or these things at that time,
right?
When it first was being built up.
Could you imagine if there's like a mass exodus of like people in downtown Toronto, and then it just becomes like a weird cesspool of like homeless people, like you know what I mean? Because who would take over if nobody's in downtown Toronto?
Yeah.
My biggest fear, well, not really my biggest fear, but like this is a cautionary tale, is like Skid Row in LA. If you go downtown, imagine if you started seeing like tent cities and stuff like that, and like that's what I mean about cesspool.
Yeah.
Because if you go like Richmond Hill, it's like rich people, Richmond Hill, but you know what I mean? Like it is rich people, so like you solve the cleanliness and safety issue. Like I don't really see a bunch of like homeless people walking around Richmond Hill, like ever.
Yeah.
But that's a gentrification thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So are they going to be pushed towards downtown Toronto?
Or like it has to be outlets for more help for these types of people, like more money in those kinds of things.
So that goes back to my thing about it must be so difficult to be a politician. You have 4 years or like X amount of years to is it 4, right? No, it's America. What do we have? How many terms do you get?
If you get a majority, probably 5, I think it's here.
Okay, so 5 years to fix a problem, but your problem is like a spider web. When you touch one node, all the other nodes get affected.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we were saying, it's not just one solution. Because like, okay, you solve one problem, but you create another problem.
Yeah.
So how are you supposed to fix this thing?
Well, that's the whole point of what's one solution at a time kind of thing.
One solution at a time, but also a revolving door of politicians. It's like, okay, you don't have enough time, and then the person that gets in charge next undoes your other one. You're like, oh, dude.
Yeah. It's a slow process, but that's how it goes.
Yeah. I wonder if like we're slowly like digging it's almost like we're in quicksand and we're waiting around, and we're getting deeper and deeper in the quicksand. We're like, whoa, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
It feels like that. I mean,
yeah, it can. Yeah, especially now especially with what happened with COVID, right? So like that was more of a reactionary because that came out of nowhere. So it's like,
but on the flip side, the videos coming out of China are freaking me out too. So I'm like, okay, so totalitarian governments or democracies?
Yeah.
They just shoved you into they fenced off all those people in Shanghai.
Yeah.
And it's looking crazy. I was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
But I get the whole social credit score system that they're, like, again, the conspiracy theorists are talking about. It's like, some videos, you have to show your QR code. Well, we used to do that.
Yep.
Our vaccine thing. Yeah, it's true. We did do that. I'm glad we abandoned that.
Yeah, it was going to go eventually. It's just...
But the conspiracy theorists believed it wasn't going to go. So it was like, ooh. But you see the perils of it not going, because like in China right now, you're like, that looks so messed up. They're like, if you don't know what it is, you can Google like COVID lockdown restrictions in China, and they're just like fencing off all these people.
Yeah. I don't know if they have it right now. I know they shift to a different area, but not sure.
What do you mean, like shifting?
Like another area that's being increasing in cases or something.
But like, what is the fear of?
No, I think over there, they have the idea of zero COVID policy, I think, but also they don't have a very high, like their older population doesn't have a high vaccine count, but also their own vaccine isn't
that great? Yeah,
as great. So that's why.
Right. So there's like, it could be really bad for us if this thing.
Yeah, and also I think like whoever the way it runs differently over there. So whoever's running in those. Like controlling those towns or cities, I feel like they don't want to mess up like what they did in Wuhan. So. Oh
yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, true.
They don't want that kind of situation, so they're just overly precautious.
Yeah, it seems like both ways are.
But both are two extremes.
Yeah. Like I mean, like communist or democracy, they both have their pitfalls.
Yeah, I think
we're seeing, like theoretically, it does seem good that you work together.
Yeah, these are all man-made things. Of course, nothing is perfect, right?
Yeah, true. Like, how do you herd a giant Earth? Actually, probably one of the best ways to herd Earth is to first make us all understand that we're the same species. So if you can abolish racism, we're team human. That seems like it would be way better.
I think, that's what I was thinking about the race thing earlier, because it's like dogs only see in black and white.
Yeah.
Like if we can stop seeing different colors, if we just saw everyone as one color.
Maybe that's what the metaverse will be. You know what I mean? Like we all just see avatars.
Yeah, so you can be whatever you want to be. So in that way, you won't have any issue.
Yeah, true. Yeah, because what kind of racism would there be if we're all differently unique? There's no race.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see that metaverse thing though? They lost like $3 billion.
Yeah, but again, these are just the way these headlines work. You have to invest in your things, they don't money doesn't show up right away.
All
right?
right, true. Okay, so it's like the long
Like you
game.
can, yeah, it's a long game. You spend more money in R&D in the beginning to eventually that you're going to make these things back in the long term.
Hopefully.
Yeah, but that's with any kind of venture of ideas, right? So you put money in first into R&D to make sure that maybe it'll be some won't work. Maybe some you got to pause for the time being. It's not the right time.
Right. Yeah.
You come back to it later. It's all part of
it's
that
like
whole
the
thing.
Google Glass. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen this, but Ray-Ban has partnered up with Meta, and they have their own version of Google Glass now. It's not Google Glass. It's it's like the Ray-Ban
Smart tech or something.
Yeah, something like that. It's like it's augmented reality though. So like they have like you could take calls with your Ray-Bans and like all that stuff. So like yeah, like you were saying, it's just not the right time.
But this is the thing. Like Ray-Ban is thinks that this may be the future, right? So that's where they're putting their money in.
Right.
But it may not work out for them, but it can work. It could work out for them. Maybe there's a certain technologies they can patent from those sort of things that will be used in other areas.
Like later on, and yeah, true. That is interesting. It's like that's actually a jiu-jitsu principle too. It's like the right move at the wrong time is the wrong move. So if you're like if you're gonna slap on like an armbar, but you don't have the correct positioning for it, and then you lose your position, it's sort of like, you know, the tech is there. It's the right tech, just the wrong time.
Right.
And that's why you lost your $3 billion.
Yeah, but you can still make it back. These are the way these titles
you can always
work.
work your way back to the position.
Always, once again, like when I learned that, the iPad was, they were working on the iPad first before the iPhone.
Exactly. Yeah.
But the iPad wasn't ready for the world yet.
Yeah. We need to do like phones first, and they're like, okay, I get this whole touchscreen thing, and then like, okay, now iPad.
And then now everybody is that. I remember when the iPad came out, I was like, oh, it's just a bigger iPhone, but actually,
it's
the other way around.
Yeah, see that's really interesting. Wait, I wonder what tech is out there that we just don't even know about, right?
That's the thing. What is in their R&D? What are they working on that we don't know yet? Right?
Yeah, like the Apple car. They were like theorizing.
Yeah, all these rumors about that. And
I wonder.
We're just gonna have rumors until they actually show it. So.
Okay, that's true. That's fair.
But in a way, rumors can be also beneficial. Like if you're thinking an Apple car, or if you're thinking some other technology, but they may not even be having it, it might affect their increase in their stock prices.
Yeah, that's true.
Because of an idea that may exist or may not exist.
But that's all right. So that's crazy too. Like with the stock, if you think about like how the stock market works, it's all based off of perception.
Yeah.
So that's also like mass herding. You know, because like if I can convince you. Like, if I can convince you to act illogical, which human beings are, then I can game the system. There's so many, like, it's like the more you know, there's like a, what do you call that? A point of diminishing returns for knowledge. Because then you start thinking, like, everything's messed up. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you can go in that direction, yes. Or everything is the way it is.
Yeah, but like, how do you move in a? I
don't think necessarily in messed up or not messed up, right? This is what societies go through.
But how do you move within society if you know how many pitfalls there are? You know, you could be.
It's what you believe. Everything's about belief.
So it's all essentially like spray and pray. You're just like, come on, work.
Everything is belief. Yeah, it's their individual story. So.
Right, and then it becomes. But that's what I mean. It's like if everything's just what you believe, it's like then you're just gunning with hope.
Yes, that's what we've created.
Which is pretty trippy. Which is a great segue into Devda. I wrote his name down. You could pronounce it better than me. Devda.
I don't know. I just know it's Dev.
Okay, Dev. So
and something for his first name. Yeah.
So he's. You want to give a little preamble to.
He's like
who he is and what you like him.
Yeah, I always bring up the stories, and I've talked about it on here before. Like the whole, like going around the world between the two brothers, Ganesha and his brother, right?
Oh yeah, retell that story. It's a good story.
Where it's like they wanted to have a competition between the two brothers Ganesha and his brother Karthik, I think his name, and the challenge was to go around the world or go around your world 3 times, and whoever's the fastest wins, right? So all gods have their own animals, right? So Karthik, his brother, got onto the peacock and he went around the world 3 times, and then Ganesha went around his world 3 times, but Ganesha won because it depends on how you view what the world means or what world means. So for Ganesha, he ran around his parents, saying, "This is my world," and then Karthik went around the world.
That's super clever.
So one is materialistic, scientific, and while the other one is subjective,
or personal, or like heartfelt, like hedonic.
Yeah, and personal and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's like there's 2 different worldviews right there.
Which is interesting. All of these ancient stories have so much lessons that you can like break away from them and stuff. But the thing that you were saying about like Dev is that there is no like just go over some of the things that you found really interesting about you were telling me this week. Like
there isn't anything right or wrong in either of those points of views, right? It's on your subjective reality of
but I meant like the Hinduism thing about like there is no like there is no truth to anything.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, so it's subjective truth.
Yeah,
everything is subjective truth. So you have
everything
different
in life is a subjective truth.
Yeah, and it's a story that you say that it's a story that you tell yourself. That's how you want to live.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, life is just a story you tell yourself.
That's basically that. Because you can have different kinds of views in this idea of Hinduism, right? You can be a hermit, to leave society, leave those types of attachments in him, right? Or the other concept is the direct opposite of that, is just everything is part of life.
So you submerge yourself or immerse yourself into the world.
Yeah, that this is not to be shunned about or anything like that. This is all part of it. So it depends on which kind of, for your personal view, how you fall into how you want to view the world.
And the perspective of Dev is these are the true teachings of Hinduism, right? Instead of what we believe them to be, like made up of deities.
Well, those are all in aspects, and there's metaphors to those meanings for these deities and things like that, right? Like why you have so many gods, because you can have so many perspectives. That's kind of what it is.
Right. And this is how he's decoding it.
That's how he's decoding it. He's like a mythologist.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, totally. So it's interesting with like Joseph Campbell. He wrote The Hero with 1,000 Faces, and basically in that book, it's about how every story is the exact same story. Just like it's basically what you're saying. Like everything is a perspective of our own reality. That's the core point to a lot of these mythologies. But I find what's really interesting is that China and India, because Hinduism's Indian and China has Taoism. And when you're explaining this to me, I'm like, oh, that's just Taoism. But I wonder if it's because they're the 2 oldest places on Earth that have gone through so much. We think about everything from a Western perspective, which is like conquer, dominate, all that stuff. Whereas like China and Western perspective would be like Great Britain, Rome, America now, right? You have these dominating perspectives, but if you actually look at the totality of time, it's only been around for, like let's say 1,000 years, right? Yeah. But India and China have been flourishing places for hundreds of thousands of years. I don't actually know. Not hundreds of thousands, it's like hyperbole. But you know what I'm saying? Like it's like those were the epicenters. Yeah. Even if you read into like history, like the beginning of time for the Greeks and the Romans, China and India were trading places for them. If you read like Silk Road, they were like Persia is another one, like Sumeria, like all these like different areas. But what it seems like is like China and India were the epicenters of the world way before what we see now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you can see like there's two different ideas and a mix of ideas. So like when Britain came in, or even before Britain came in, like when Islam came into India, or the kind of teachings that were left behind from there, right? So from before, there was no like people didn't wear as many clothes,
Yeah, okay, yeah, you were saying.
right? It had
Oh, this
very,
is a good point. You were bringing this up this week. Yeah.
yeah. And then because they didn't view the body as
Satanic
sinful
or sinful, yeah.
this is just normal. This
Right.
is natural. That's how they viewed in their society. But when outside cultures came in, like Islam or Christianity, those were a naked body is sinful.
Right.
That's why we have to wear clothes. So that all came in from the Abrahamic religions,
Yeah.
right? I mean, yeah, especially Islam and Christianity. So that influenced in parts of India. That's why people having a bit different, like wearing the different clothes and things like that. And like
Right.
certain parts of North India, like have like they cover their head, like
Yeah.
they put the kind of like a shawl like on top, but like they're not like covering like a hijab. Like there's
Okay.
like that idea came in from Islamic teachings.
Right.
So like the influence of that into there. So India's been influenced, mixture of back and forth of all these different ideas that keep coming in and going.
Naturally through war, though. Like through
Yeah, naturally
conquering,
through
like, they come in and like
yeah. But
or
that's
trade even, you
yeah.
know.
Yeah, but it's all part of like there isn't one way of running a society, right? That's kind of what it's saying too. It's like
Right.
these things come and go, and you have to act accordingly based on whatever the time is,
Right.
and whatever the right decisions to be done. Yeah.
But now what I'm wondering is this Western perspective a growing pain of what is to come? Because if you look at the oldest societies, which is like China and India, they had more of a harmony based perspective with the world and
I don't think it's. I even like if you look at it right now, I would not say it's the same Hinduism as in the original concept. I think things have changed.
okay, for sure, like the contemporary times, right?
Yeah.
But okay, so then, well, with what you said about Dev and like the original meaning of Hinduism, that's what Zen and Taoism still champion. That's like what the epitome is of their whole teaching, right?
Yeah.
So if this is what they're teaching back then because of thousands of years of iterations to make things better and better,
Yeah.
I wonder if we're headed in that direction because you can see it now. Like, what is climate change?
Yeah. So I think they also believed in things being cyclical,
Yeah, that's
right? So everything
right.
just repeats itself,
Yeah.
and so. And like how in today's current society, like we're seeing all these genders and
Yeah.
all these things that was also there before.
Yes.
But they were more free. You could do all these things. There was no like idea of marriage, open marriage in a way.
Yeah,
It was all those things existed.
Yeah.
So it's like we're kind of coming back into that again. But like, it's a bit of a
that's
cyclical
true.
thing.
Yeah. But they did talk about that as well. It's like the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, like all that stuff. That comes from I think the Greeks. But that is a cyclical thing too. It's like we will eventually destroy ourselves, come back to another place. Or there's a more famous one because Joe Rogan brings it up. It's like hard times make hard men, hard men make soft times make soft men make soft times, which create to hard times.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like cyclical again.
Because and then you have to like you make it too easy for your next generation, then they become soft, and then that collapses civilization. So everybody has to work hard again, and then the hardship is the struggle towards making things easier. But then by making things easier, then we collapse civilization again.
Yeah.
So I wonder if maybe we're hitting that point,
Yeah.
where it's too soft. That's why we're like arguing about anything now.
We're in the transition. I don't think we're there yet, but like it's cyclical. It's gonna keep coming. It's a back and forth thing. It's not. It's like there's no one linear method. Right?
Which you're right though. Like if you like cyclically remember when we were kids, like like homosexuality, transgender, all that stuff was like it was like ridiculed in our time when we were kids, right?
Yeah.
And then, but if you read into history, it's like that was super common in Roman times,
Yeah.
right? They were totally cool with their like sexuality or gender or whatever. like even Native Americans, right? They had the thing called the two spirits,
Yeah.
right? Where it's the spirit of a man and a woman inhabiting one body, right? And they were like celebrated in that culture because they could understand both perspectives.
Yeah.
So they were like seen as wise people, you know. And then, so from our time when we were kids, it was like that was ridiculed, but now we're moving towards a place of more acceptance and like too much liberalism. You know, and then you get Elon Musk who's like, no, we're heading too liberal. Let's go back to more of a conservative. Free speech is say whatever you want.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like you can see this dance of like up and downs in our own society.
Right.
And I think that's why it's so important to read into history, man, because then you realize like we've all done it before. Like there's nothing new.
It's interesting to see the similarities. That we think it's all new, but it's not new.
Yeah. And the only thing that really changes is technology, because like those people who were two spirits or whatever, or like inhabited the wrong body, they're able to change through technology, you know, gene hormones and stuff. Yeah. But before they couldn't do that.
Right.
You know, but that was a part of us as, you know, Homo sapiens since forever.
Yeah. These are all natural things.
Yeah. It's weird to think about. Because then you're like, what? It's almost like if anything goes, then nothing is wrong. You know what I mean? Like, like it goes back to the Elon Musk Twitter thing. It's like, who's making the rules for what constitutes right and wrong?
Yeah, it is the current society that you live in. That's who's making the rules. Right.
Yeah. And if that's ever changing, then doesn't that technically mean that there's nothing that's correct? Because that'll just become incorrect later on.
That's true. So nothing, that's what I'm saying. There's no like true with the capital T of what's right and wrong. It's just what we in society think is right and wrong.
Or there's nothing true with a capital T at all.
Yeah.
Like
no. I understand that. Rule. Yes, in that sense. Yes, that's true. But we live in a society where we make those rules. So that's
right. Totally. No, I get what you're saying. Like in our society, it's like a lowercase t of what's true, but the capital T for what's true is like there is nothing that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that's true is like science. That's why I'm like mathematics is the only, because it's either right or wrong.
Yeah, that's gonna be
You can't like if it's the only thing that's actually binary, like yes or no, is math. Because it's either right or wrong. But like anything that's not mathematics seems subjective to me.
Yeah.
Like laws are completely subjective.
Yeah.
According to the time. You know, like why were like homosexual people fighting for gay rights when we were kids, but back in the Roman time it was totally cool.
Yeah.
You know, not even now. Everyone's like, oh, see, we're progressing. It's like, no, you're just cyclical, bro. You know, if you read into history, they had that rule already.
Yeah. Right.
That's what I mean. It's like it's the illusion of progress, but it's like you were saying, cyclical. Yeah. But then, man, then you could argue for anything. Like even taking the golden rule, thou shalt not kill. But it's like we have war.
Yeah.
Nobody's looking at that.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Like even this idea of justice. Like I believe in justice, but justice is also subjective. A concept we make because is it justice for a person that's innocent, that's still waiting for his trial, but he's in jail?
That's not justice. Yeah,
that's not justice.
I mean, according to like, because is it innocent until proven guilty, or is it the other way around?
No, but he hasn't been proven guilty.
No, I know that's what I mean. So it's not innocent until proven guilty.
Like, it doesn't make sense to be that. Is our system justice in that way? When you put someone in prison who's innocent, who hasn't had his trial yet, to prove that he's guilty.
Yes. Yeah.
See, so it's like
that's backwards.
Then it's not justice.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I agree with you.
It's perspective.
You know, I was thinking about this yesterday. I like put a tweet out about it. Like, it's a very common phrase in martial arts, which is like live by a code, die by a code, right? And then I was trying to deconstruct that more. I was like, why is that so important to people? You know, live by a code, die by a code. It's because there is no code. So you have to create something to give your mind some sort of order. Like, I'm going towards this direction. You know, because that's what the mind needs. Some sort of to like alleviate its anxiety over the unknown. It creates knowns out of unknowns.
Yeah. So our brains are trying to create order in chaos.
And that's all it is.
Yeah.
That's what our total, that's the great benefit and the great cost of the human brain, right? Because we're trying to make order out of chaos, we're able to create order, which is like, we can create things like, so like electricity is just random, but we're like, oh, if we can create order out of this chaos of electricity, we can create a battery. You know what I mean? So we were able to develop civilization to where it is now because we have created that order. But it's also at our detriment because this is how our mind works. So we're like confused, but animals have no order amidst chaos. They're just like living in the chaos. So they seem more peaceful than we are. You know, like they embrace the unknown fully.
Well, that's why when things are not in order, we don't know how to react. Like we react.
Yes.
So like when COVID came,
like, oh, everyone's running.
It changed our order.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We had to do lockdowns. These are not part of our normal.
Right. We broke our own laws in order to like, okay, let's maintain order again.
Yeah.
That's so trippy to think about.
Yeah. And then how do you bring it back? Right now, people have been stuck in it for 2 years, right? So people are still scared of this virus. That
right. Yeah.
isn't the same virus in the beginning, but like that's...
Right. Yeah. It's a reframing and a reshaping of that idea in our head. Like what I mean is like the order that we've created is like, if you stay inside, you'll be safe. That's the order.
Yeah.
You know, we've created
that was the new order.
Chaos.
That was the new order from that chaos. Yes.
But then now it's like, how do you undo that order?
Undo that. Yeah.
So it's like we got to re-hurt ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are like a mentally driven. We are that animal. We're the elephant that's chained, like fully. It's just all in our heads. But I mean, it sounds so negative, but at the same time, it's like, that's our great benefit too, because how are we going to SpaceX? How are we going to Mars?
Yeah.
With SpaceX.
Yeah.
You need to create that order. You needed to create, you needed to, I was going to say you need to create mathematics, and then I paused because I was like, did we create mathematics or did we discover mathematics?
I'd say more discover. I don't think we
thinking
create
discover
anything.
too.
Because I think math or whatever, it's
universal.
there. You're just it's universal. So
no, but I wonder if we did create it though, because like we created language. The sun was always there. We just created the name for the sun. We didn't discover the name for sun. We created that.
Okay.
So I wonder if like mathematics is created as well. It must be created, right? Because math was always there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But we're not discovering math. We're not like, oh, this is like a diamond within the sand or whatever. It's like,
okay,
no, we created that. Because it's all in your head. Math isn't real. It's not tangible.
Right, yeah.
Right? Like our descriptors are not tangible. Like the sun is, you can't touch these ideas.
No.
So technically we didn't discover them. We created them in our own minds.
Yeah, what I meant by discover was just that they already existed. The laws already existed.
For sure. I agree with you. But that's why I'm thinking like the universe has already existed.
Yeah.
We're just creating order out of chaos again. So like math is just a creation of order.
Well, yeah, I mean like but any...
You know what I'm saying?
I think the universe itself goes in that way too though. Even though it is chaotic, there are areas of control. So for instance, like our beginning of our universe was chaotic. Then it became order by having all these planets like collapsed into each other, or the sun.
Or is that our perspective of order? You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, okay, so like what is
depends on how you define chaos and order then.
Yeah, true, yeah, for sure. I think chaos is just happening.
Okay.
Right? So like it's not actually finding order, it's just following the parameters that it was going
so
to.
That's what I'm saying. Like this is, so you're finding order, or you're just
creating order. It's like
So there's two different definitions there. So what I meant,
if I threw a billiard, okay, like two balls. If I threw one ball at the other ball,
yeah,
right, that just happened, okay. But then in your mind you create, oh, that first billiard hit the other billiard ball. which created the
Mm-hmm.
offset. Like
Yeah,
I
the
created the
reaction.
meaning
Okay.
of that event. That event happened regardless, but I created order out of that event.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Kind of. Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
Like it's like I created a narrative around that
Okay.
event.
Okay. I got you. Yeah.
It's like if he hadn't hit the first ball, then the other ball wouldn't have rolled away.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, I'm just creating the story of like all these different stories.
I get what you're saying.
But at the end of the day, it was just the ball hit another ball.
No, I get what you're saying. So even with this is, I think, like with the whole, how our universe was, or our solar system was. Let's just talk about our solar system. It was from all these balls of gas or rock, and over time became Earth and other planets, and our sun, right? But we're like, it's not done yet. You get what I'm trying to say?
Okay.
Where the sun is going to end up becoming a red giant and then explode again, and then we restart.
But that's like, just happening.
It's happening. So that means we're in a. If you depends on where you end off order, right? So it's not really. It's going to a spot, but it's going to come back out of order again and then start again.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So,
like, everything is always just going to be happening then.
But all right. So, but the question is like,
we're only limiting.
Discovering?
We're that's what I'm saying. We're limiting. At this time, we have these orders, but they keep changing.
But right,
because time keeps changing.
I get what you're saying, but what I'm saying is we're creating the idea of order.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So like it's just happening.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
right?
in this specific time, we seem like this is order, but then at another time, it's a different kind of order, or different. It's subjective.
But each time, right. But each time you said subjective. So like each time you're just creating that. If you're creating that definition.
Yeah. So then we're always in chaos. We're
creating order.
We're just moving.
Chaos.
Yeah, we're just always changing.
But I wonder if like. No, but the original point was like, are we discovering it or creating it?
Yeah.
I think we're creating it.
Yeah, we are creating meanings to it. Sure.
Yeah. And I feel like that's...
Depends on how you define these things. I think it really matters the definition.
That's true. It's like semantics. I can see something in my head, but we're all doing that, right? It's like you can see something in your head, you're trying to describe it to another person. It's like, how do I best articulate this to another person?
Yeah. So, yeah. So, like, that's a... Right now, we're in this is in a form of a chaos.
Yeah. We're trying to create order in it.
I think in trying to order that would be me actually being in your head. Can we get to that technology where I can actually see what you actually...
I would never want that, though.
What you exactly mean. If you can just, like... I mean, I don't have to be in your head, but, like, in a way you can just project it to show...
Like pictures, yeah. Which is actually really trippy when you think about it, because it's like, you know, they say pictures worth 1,000 words.
But yes.
If I could project a picture in front of us and you could see it, it would communicate it way faster than like trying to figure out the exact verbiage to use.
Yeah, true.
Which it'd be so trippy. All right.
I feel like it'll help a lot of people if this kind of technology says it'll help people that are speaking different languages.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. You would just see the thing, and yeah, totally.
I feel like there'd be more problem solved in that kind of world too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Because we are just creating, like, individual tribes are just creating different sounds out of our mouths to communicate a visual. Mm-hmm. That's all it is, though, right? Mm-hmm. It's like it's just communicating a visual, because we all see the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But it's like different tribes are creating different ways of making sounds to create meaning.
But then we're also limited by the language that we speak.
That's very true as well.
By the language that we speak.
Yeah, there's a knock on the door. That's weird. Maybe Amazon order.
Maybe.
All right. Anyways, it's a weird break. Anyways, so you're saying, we're limited by the language that we speak.
Yeah. So like, how we describe things or how we define things,
right,
are limited by our language. Well, there's certain other languages have different words for different meanings.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Right. Yeah. So it's like
namaste.
Yeah.
Right. Like that. There's nothing in English that's like a namaste.
Yeah,
like,
You have to say it in multiple words.
Yeah. You can literally translate like the light in me sees the light in you.
Yeah.
I was like, what does that even mean? Like, what light? but
it's all done in one word.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like,
and it's like you can get lost in the wording as well, because like, what does a light mean? Like, I have a light, but if I can visually show you what I'm trying to see, it's like the communication will not be lost.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else about that? I want to get into one last thing. Well, actually, this is pretty sad though, but whatever.
Sure, go ahead. No.
Actually, I'll make this my second last thing.
Okay.
Russia and Ukraine.
Okay.
That's not done. Remember we were like 2 podcasts ago, we're like, oh, we're not really hearing a lot about it. But maybe it's because the medium that we're looking at it on.
No, it's not like done. It's just not it's not as
popularized because of.
I don't want to say it's not popularized. It's still being talked about, but it's not.
No, the news is all on it. I was so lost when I was at my parents' house. We don't have cable here, right? And then I was watching the local news, and they're talking about Russia and Ukraine. I'm like, what? This thing is still like going off, and like new advancements. But because it's not in my social media feed, I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't think it's. There isn't much really to talk about on the news, other than that, right? Like,
it's just a slow news cycle.
Not saying it's not saying it's a slow news cycle. It's just like there was a time where it was the big news on the Monday was that he bought Twitter, or Elon Musk bought Twitter. That was the main thing.
Yeah.
That was what was going around. What was going to happen with him? He believes in freedom of speech, but he blocks people. Like all these things were going on, right? So it's like that was like the first 2 days of this week, right? So right. Like now, I think there may have been some recycling of certain things that are happening in the Ukraine situation, but like it's not the same Ukraine situation, I would say, in the beginning.
Did you hear about that thing? He's like gonna reduce the gas or something in Germany. He's like gonna stop sending gas or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't read any.
Totally, yeah. Like, but when I say that to you, you're like, oh, that sounds very alarming. But it's like it didn't hit our feeds.
Yeah.
But isn't that weird? How?
But who said that?
My sister was telling me she saw it on the news. They're all on it. They're just like obsessively watching that crisis, right?
Yeah.
But because we don't actively engage, or we don't have like cable, it's like.
Well, mine is Twitter. My source of news is always just Twitter.
Right. But what is your Twitter feed? Like, it's like we're ruled by algorithms.
Yes.
Isn't that trippy as well? It's like something huge could be going on around the world, but because it's not in our algorithm feed, it's like algorithms really rule our lives. And it's almost like a scary thing to think about. But you know what I'm saying? It's like you can be so blinded by something. Like this crazy war that's going on in Europe right now.
Yeah.
You and I don't really know anything about it because our algorithms didn't show us anything about it. But then if you watch like the news, it's all on there and people are freaking out.
Yeah, on the news, yeah. But
right, but like what's your programming?
Yeah.
Right? And like what becomes your reality? Your reality is whatever you subject yourself to. And then if an algorithm is governing your reality, like what does that mean about like everything, It's like, do you really know the things you know? Do you really care about the things you care about?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, if we just stepped outside, detached from the matrix, which is, the internet or media is the matrix. We would, like, what would our lives look like? Completely devoid of breaking news. Yeah. It's just trippy to think about because it's like, because I didn't even write down Russia and Ukraine in our notes that I was going to bring up. But then I was there yesterday and I was like, oh, dude, this is so weird. Like, everyone's talking about it still.
They're still talking about, I don't know what they're talking about.
Just like freedom fighters that are going around like.
Yeah, but it's not the same. That's what I'm saying. It's died down in a way.
But I wonder if we're being callous to it. Is what I'm wondering.
Maybe it is a bit of that, actually.
You know what I mean?
I think it is a bit of that,
We're like, I see these flags, these Ukraine flags. I'm like, oh, why are you guys all Ukraine flag? And then you watch the news, you're like, oh, dude, it's crazy.
Yeah, the war is not over.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, the
And
war
it's
was
like,
not over.
but you can become so like desensitized and callous to it because you don't think it's real because it's not a part of your algorithm feed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it makes you question a lot of other
Yeah,
things. You know, you're like, what am I not paying attention to?
Yeah, that's why I like to check both the For You section, which is more algorithm based, and trending section, which is generally
But
what's
even
being spread.
trending stuff is like trending according to like a global algorithm.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It would be more talked about if it was more of a global thing. That's what
Right.
trending is about.
Again, it goes back to there's a what do you call it? Like point of diminishing returns for information, right? Because like you can just know too much. Because many other things, like remember when China was encroaching on Philippine land and we had no idea about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't know about a lot of the things in this world that are going on at this moment,
Because we're more focused on Ukraine, or at least in the news.
or even like our Western perspective of things.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
But that's how it was even before.
I know, and it's
right.
like
Even before it was just more localized, right? Even we wouldn't know too much about the Ukraine-Russia thing if we were thinking about it like 50 years ago, let's say.
totally
We're just reading the newspaper.
right.
And then it's not like you're not daily, or you're not every hour you're not being
inundated with new information.
inundated with information and stuff. So it's like
it just like the more you delve into it, the more you realize that like life is more of a mind game than it is a physical game.
mm-hmm.
Like at no point in our lives, that's why the COVID thing shocked me. Like getting COVID was like, wow, this news story made it all the way to me and I got COVID. You know what I mean? But like,
Mm-hmm.
I really doubt in our lives, unless World War III happens, the war will actually make it to physically me. You know what I'm saying? Like I will never be enlisted in the war.
Yeah, it'll be a different.
But
Yeah,
that's not like,
I understand. Yeah,
it's like life is really just a mind game
mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, because it's like we're obsessed with things that we see tangentially but not in our face.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then that can be shaped,
Right.
which makes you like wonder about like mental health crises as well, because like what are you just paying attention to?
Mm-hmm.
You know, when like people are, you know, going through like there's like a big epidemic right now or pandemic of mental health.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, just what are you subjecting yourself to?
True.
You know, because it's like it's all just a mind game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That being said, end off with something happy. Batman 2 got announced. I'm pretty stoked about that.
Yeah.
All the people got re-signed. So Catwoman.
Oh yeah, she's back.
Yeah. They were at their like DC event.
Oh, they had a DC event?
Yeah. And they talked about it there. I know, right? So you didn't even hear about that. You know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of weird. But yeah, so they brought it up that they re-signed them. So that's
for the next movie.
Too. Yeah. And I was also gonna say, Doctor Strange looks really sick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I was really apprehensive at first. I was kind of like, I don't know if it's gonna be good, but the new trailer that dropped is like, okay, or the teaser that dropped looks really good. So I think the Xavier's a part of the Illuminati. Well, he must be, because that's what he said. Like, enter the Illuminati, and then they showed Xavier.
No, they're.
Oh, you think they're baiting, switching me?
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm more intrigued to watch it now.
Yeah, as soon as you said Xavier was in it, I thought, okay, let's get this. This is how they're entering in X-Men. So.
Right. But that's what makes me intrigued to go watch it. It looks good. Yeah. So hopefully they can turn around. You haven't watched any Moon Knight, eh?
No.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm so like disinterested now. It was started off strong, but now it's like kind of weird. They have like a hippopotamus god. I was seeing like the
Oh yeah, I saw a picture.
Yeah, and I was like, oh come on, this looks lame.
Oh, that looks cool.
Oh man. I don't know. Yeah, so if we end up watching it next week, I guess that's what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what's the plan for? Are we doing it next week?
Oh, we'll talk about it offline, but yeah, okay. So yeah,
well, it's
some
out
things
next
to look
week,
forward
so,
to. Yeah. All right. Anything else? Any
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
You loving Gran Turismo
Yeah, I was
still?
gonna say, yeah, GT7 is still really great.
Yeah. It's funny, like with the reality, there's like the arcade.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I'm more into like Need for Speed,
Mm-hmm.
which is just run and gun. And then you're really into that realism. Like I tried Gran Turismo 7. I was like, I can't do it. It's just too real.
There's a lot of patience involved.
I can't just hold down the gas pedal and just like...
No. Yeah. If you're gonna go off track, you hit the car, you're gonna get minus points or whatever. So it's like...
Yeah, that's not cool. It's too real.
Yeah, you gotta drive like you're a real race car driver.
Yeah.
Make sure you change the tires, put the fuel in.
It kind of remind me of The Sims. Remember, like The Sims, where you just like you feed your people and you watch them like learn certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird when we're like too. It's almost like we don't want too much reality in our lives. You know what I'm saying? Like, or from like my perspective, which I think is unless you know, is Gran Turismo 7 like super big right now?
I think so.
Like it's big, but it's like, is it like a number one game of all time? Because I wonder if like people want the reality or like the...
I don't know. Like there's a big following for GT7, so
a big following, but like, is it like a top game? You know,
for racing or for...
No, just like a general game.
I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know the numbers.
Yeah, because like if life were a video game, like later on we go into like simulation, you think you get like too bored playing something that's too close to reality, or like would you want to sim into a life that's...
I think it depends on the time.
It
depends on...
Yeah, okay, true.
Everything changes, right? So
everything changes. All right, till next time. Yeah, don't manage your input, because that'll shape your reality of the world.
Yeah.
All right, take it easy, Vish.
Peace.
All right, hope you enjoyed that episode. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all those fun things, and check out our sponsors, Zenro Clothing Co., Portian Bakery, and Podbean. Take it easy, Vish.
Peace.